So we're going to perform the light RTM process on this boat hull, and you can see these guys are ready to close the mold for us. So I'll hand it over to Doug.
Thank you. Okay, what we've got here is this is our A-side mold. Of course, this would normally be gel coated if we were in a shop. We've got a 700 D3 700 in here as a laminate. This particular mold has a groove in it also for a silicone bag, so we can do both processes in it. But the B-side mold, the guys, we have our manual crane bringing this over. Light RTM, crate not totally light when it gets to this size. So we'll bring it over and close it up. Transom first. Okay. Good. You can see we've got alignments on here, so when it goes down, it's going to locate automatically. We're going to hook the vacuum up.
So the light RTM process is a closed mold process using the orange A-side mold and then this neutral colored B-side mold. And it's light because we're using a semi-rigid B-side. So it's really not that thick. And we're using vacuum to clamp the molds together, and I'll let Doug explain that a little bit more.
Okay, this is actually the B-side for the seat mold that maybe you've seen earlier. But of course, a little easier to turn this over than it is to turn this hull over. Again, we have our wing seal, which keeps atmospheric pressure out from our vacuum. So we've got a dual vacuum system. So this is our clamping pressure. So high vacuum here, half here. The seals, this is going to keep the cavity for the part separate from the clamping pressure. You've got your fitting here for your resin injection. So the resin, and then you've got your vacuum port here. Of course, there's your connection for your clamping pressure, which is what we've got here. So we're going to plug in here with a line. We use the auto screw over there. We're going to use a manual fitting here because we're going to inject it. Then our vent will go in. The resin will come in. There's a resin runner gallery, exactly the same as in the boat. It's going to come around, close out, inject, get to the vacuum port, and that will finish the part off. We're going to do a drop test, make sure everything's good. Okay. So we didn't have a drop. We're going to open the resin line up.
Thank you, Doug. My name is Rick Power. I'm with Pollunt Composites. So what we're going to see here in a second is we're going to start the process. We've got an RTM resin here, unsaturated polyester resin, about 100 centipoise of viscosity. We've pigmented it black, which we normally don't do, but to enhance the look as it flows through so that you can all see it better. We've got a little bit of black pigment that we put into this.
Also, as I said, you're going to be able to visually see. The other thing about light RTM is maybe if you've seen the seat, again, how quickly this process goes. We loaded the glass in, which took very little time. Setting this on top, injecting it, you'll see that time. And also the cycle times are going to be fairly quick on this, okay? So let's start the flow, and then we'll talk a little bit about the machine. But I want to just show you where the flow is. You're going to be able to see it here.
I'm Drew Simmons with Magnum Venus Products. This is our Innovator 2 Mega Jet injection system set up for polyester or vinyl ester resins. You'll see the catalyzed resin being delivered to the part. A couple of different features on the system. We have a stroke counter there in the top left. Basically what we do is we find out exactly how much resin the part takes. We put that amount of strokes on the machine. The machine will run until it hits that stroke count, and then it'll turn off on its own. So this what enables you to do is to utilize your labor to stretch further so they can set the machine, walk away, prep the next tool, It'll cut off on its own, and then it'll be ready to go the next time. At the end of the injection, a resin gel alarm will go off to tell you either to inject more resin or to flush. So this is our fully pneumatic system. We also have a PLC controlled system in our booth if you want to go take a look at that.
Hey, Russ, maybe you can tell us why this part's going to release, okay?
We use two release products for this. On the B side, we use R and B, and that stands for resin and B side. So if you can see on the flange there, on the orange flange, you can see the high gloss appearance to that. And we've used PMR 90, which is a wipe on, wipe off.
I'm Travis Irvin with Shomrot. The reinforcement we're using today is from our RovaCore line of products. RovaCore is designed specifically for closed mold applications like light RTM. It's a combination of chopped glass fiber and a non-woven polypropylene core that also acts as the flow media for this. A traditional reinforcement of woven roving or chopped strand mats, if you were to try and do something like this process with one of those materials, it's not going to work very well. There's no way to get the resin distributed evenly throughout the part without a product like RovaCore, and that's what the polypropylene flow media does for you here. It's just a single layer, 2 ounces of chopped glass on either side of it, and you end up with a uniform, consistent, strong, stiff part.
Okay, so you can see, you're being able to see the flow of the resin system. Ideally, it's just a very clean process. I guess the biggest advantage is it's repeatable. It's going to be exactly the same every time. It's very repeatable. The other advantage with light RTM is you could gel coat both sides if you wanted to, and or pigment the resin. A lot of the marine industry gel coat their hatch covers sort of thing, and then they just use a white pigmented resin for the underside because they don't need the UV stability, and yet it's going to be white. I mean, we've got our vacuum system. This particular one is a pneumatic. It's a Venturi style. It has a 24-volt system on it, which allows it to turn off when it reaches vacuum. So once we've got our vacuum locked in, then the machine shuts off, so you're not using all those CFM of air pressure from your compressor. Again, no VOCs, you've got no issues. Employee also with exposure for your employees, etc. But the biggest advantage, I think, is that you're going to be able to make this part, make it the same every time. It's going to be an exact repeatable process. You can see that we're almost loaded up. We're just about to the vent. And again, once you've established the amount of resin that you need for the part, you'll preset it into the machine to the stroke counter, and then it will automatically shut off when you get to that volume. Okay, one little spot left there, and we'll pull that out.
How long before demo, or take the B off?
This particular resin, we're looking at probably about 45 minutes to an hour to demold the B side. We won't take it out of the A side right away, but we will take the B side off. Resin will tend to shrink a little bit, and when it shrinks, we don't want to shrink onto the male mold, so we'll leave it in the female to finish curing. Certainly a kit's going to be the most efficient thing for you to do. You put your kit in, you're going to be able to, again, it's a repeatable process, okay? Always with man-made fabrics, you're going to end up probably with a very slight variance each time. So I don't know you'll ever get away with totally not having any trim at all, but you can certainly reduce it.
Good morning. Welcome to the demo zone on day 2. The demo zone is brought to you by Composites One and the Closed Mold Alliance. They're demolding a light RTM hull that we built yesterday. So, Doug, you want to tell us a little bit about the hull we built yesterday?
Thank you. So we put a layer of RovaCore 600 D3600 in there, and of course we can't gel coat here, so it's not gel coated. But cosmetics, certainly we could do better than that with gel coat on it. etc., and maybe some veil. But generally, it takes around 10 minutes to inject it. Probably about 15 minutes to load the glass and trim it and put it in place. And like I said, about 10 minutes to inject it. It's cured depending on the resin system you're using, but probably it's a cycle time of about an hour to make a part and have it out of the mold.
Hey, Russ, what do we need to do for this mold now that we've pulled the part?
Well, basically, we have the R&B on there, and we're just going to do one touch-up coat so that you guys can keep building parts.
Okay. Do we need to touch up the B side as well?
B came off real easily, so I think we're fine on that.
Okay. Great. Any other products you would recommend for this type of process?
Well, if you are using a gel coat, we would probably instead of the R&B, we would go with the PMR 90. How's the tape on that? So it's not very scientific, but it is the best way. If your tape is going to peel back, you've lowered the surface energy enough on the mold that your part will not stick, and you don't need a touch-up coat.
Hey, Rick, you want to tell us about the resin we used in this light RTM part?
Thank you, James. So the resin we used here, as you see, we pigmented it black purposely, so it basically enhanced the look of the part. It's a typical RTM resin for us. It's not normally black. We normally don't put pigments into it, but it's an RLL pH series of resins designed specifically for RTM.